What is good, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla stock, what's going on with SPY, the QQQ, Nvda, and many other tickers, and then give you guys a very important warning about the market for the next couple of minutes and also for tomorrow morning as we have so much data coming out. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. This offer ends in just 4 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. So, looking at the market right now, the market's looking quite bearish. We saw a really nice pop on Tesla when we opened up, and then Tesla ended up just continuing to sink after that. We saw some liquidity grabs over here as well before it continued. And now Tesla's testing its 30 minutes 50 EMA. It's trying to sink below that. It's still barely holding it, but like I said before, it's looking very, very weak. So the question is, what's going to happen moving forward? What is my important warning for everyone for today and also for tomorrow? And that's why I want to discuss this data. So the FOMC minutes comes out at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, which is going to be like 15 minutes after this video comes out at the time I'm recording this too. So the FOMC minutes comes out very soon. Why is this so important? As a reminder, it's going to be a good recap of what happened during the FOMC meeting. And this is just going to be like a press release. I'm going to find out what happens with the Fed, what the Fed is saying. We're going to get more insights on what the Fed officials are going to be doing when it comes to monetary policy, what their opinions are, and things like that. So when this comes out, we're going to find out if more and more of the Fed officials were being more hawkish, if they think we should raise rates again. And it's going to cause a very big move in the markets, in my opinion. The last time the Fed spoke, the last time Jerome Powell opened his mouth, the market got a very big rug pull. So there is a risk of possible downside if a lot more of these Fed officials are being more hawkish. So just be very, very careful. And I honestly don't know for sure what is going to happen, and that's why it's very important to just be very careful and to be very open-minded. I'm also saying that because as a day trader, it's always important to know when you know things, to know when you know when you're projecting something with high confidence, and to know when you don't know something. And another example of something we may not know is going to be the data for tomorrow. All right, so for today, we have FOMC minutes coming out in just a couple of minutes. It's going to cause a big move. And then after that, tomorrow, we have CPI coming out an hour before the market opens. I will talk more about this in detail in my later video, but I just want to warn you guys about this, that, okay, between now and the time market closes today is going to be your last chance to be exiting those options if you don't have the ability to trade before the market opens. So, and that's going to basically represents most of retail, almost every retail trader out there. So basically, this is your last chance. If you want to hold something overnight, it's your choice. If you want to hold through CPI, it's all your choice. If not, if you're too worried, you don't know what's going to happen, then you could just secure profits today and just not really worry about taking more risk. It's really your choice. Just like when PPI came out, we didn't know what was going to happen, so that's why I told you to be very careful. Same thing with CPI, we don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes data can be surprising. PPI came out today a little bit hotter than expected, so there's a risk of that possibly happening to CPI eventually, maybe during this month, possibly next month. Not too sure about next month, but so just be very careful. We don't know what's going to happen, and we will see what happens with CPI. It's going to likely cause a very big move for the stock market. Most of the time, that's what tends to happen. All right. So once again, FOMC minutes in a few minutes. Then we have CPI 1 hour before the market opens tomorrow. We will see what happens. Do what you have to do, guys. That's your own choice. As far as Tesla goes, we're just barely holding the 50 EMA, but things are looking a little bit more bearish as the market is continuing to slide. So I'm going to first start off by talking about SPY on TradingView. Then I'm going to use other indicators and then other symbols as well. Looking at SPY, okay, we were talking about a potential rejection that was coming. If you look at how this thing was looking, we made an attempt to break out in the morning, but then we ended up failing. And we got our confirmation of the breakdown after we broke below 435, which is very close to where this yellow trend line was. Once we broke below this, we came all the way down to our key level, which we called out at 433. And now if 433 fails us, this is where our support is. This is where we have a demand zone. This was previously a supply zone, by the way, as well. But if 433 fails us, watch 432. We also have some support right there, which is where we saw historical resistance. So it has to hold there. It has to hold where this resistance was. If it ends up breaking below 432, there's going to be a risk of it coming all the way down to 430, potentially like 428, 426, and these much lower levels. So this is going to be a very key support to the zone right here, right? We have this previous resistance becoming support very close to it, and also this 432 to 433 area. This is going to be very, very key for SPY and the market. So watch that support very, very carefully. If we get some kind of bounce thanks to the FOMC minutes, just hypothetically, right? If it were to happen, you're going to be watching resistance at 435. Then we have 436 to 436.5 above that. Now, I'm not leaning in that direction as the charts look more bearish, but just to be safe, those are some resistance levels to watch for. This chart overall looks more bearish, so watch these supports very, very carefully, and then we will see what happens after that. As far as Tesla goes, Tesla's also looking a little bit weaker. We were just barely testing our 50 EMA, but it's been on a nice downtrend. In the morning, we got a bit of a pop before this thing started dropping as time went on. And now Tesla's just barely holding this previous resistance zone, acting as support right here. So it's very close to this like 261 to 260 area. If Tesla breaks below 261, watch 260 as key support. If 260 fails us, that's when you could turn more bearish, and Tesla's going to likely come down to 257.5 to 258. That's likely going to happen to Tesla if we do end up breaking below 260. If we end up breaking that, then we have like 255. But if we bounce, thanks to the FOMC minutes, you never know what could happen, right? It's unpredictable. We could see Tesla retest like 262.5. That's going to be our resistance right now because that's a very, very key zone. If that breaks, watch this 264, then 265 level above that. What is most likely going to happen, however, is whether we get a bounce or not is like not as relevant. It looks a little bit more bearish on Tesla. It looks like it could eventually make its way down to at least 260. So there's a risk of downside looking at the current trend. I just want to warn you about that. But just get ready for the FOMC minutes in just a few minutes, and then get ready for CPI coming out tomorrow. It's going to cause a very, very big move for Tesla, in my opinion. For the QQQ, Invesco QQQ, it's also looking a little bit weaker. We actually broke below this yellow trend line right here, which favors the bears a bit more. However, Apple's not really sinking that hard, so it's actually helping this hold up a bit. If you want to turn more bearish, you want to see it break and hold below 368. As of right now, it hasn't really done that. It's been holding above that, and that's the level we called out in the morning. So if 368 breaks, I could see this start sinking towards 366. Below that, it could come to this imbalance towards like 363, 361.69, and these much lower levels. But 368 is going to be a key support to watch for. If that breaks, there could be more downside. If you want to turn bullish, you want to see it break above 368.74 and then push for 370. If it breaks and holds 370, we could turn more bullish and push up to higher levels. All right, so what's more likely right now? However, considering that we have some more data coming out, this is looking a bit more bearish. It is making lower highs and lower lows. Just it's not selling off as hard as other equities, but I do believe that there is more downwards pressure on it. So there is a risk of it retesting 368 and maybe even breaking below that, but just watch it very carefully to see if that break comes for your confirmation. Finally, for Apple, and this is what helped the QQQ hold up to some extent, and also Nvda, but Apple, it's trading very sideways. We were talking about this thing potentially coming down. I was saying that if this thing broke down and broke below 177.5, that would be your confirmation. If this zone broke, it would start sinking much lower. It actually didn't break today. We saw some buyers stepping back in, trying to push it back up. But overall, it is still below its rising wedge, which is a bearish signal. So it is very like sideways for now, but there is a risk of downside because Apple has, it's been establishing a big change in its structure. If Apple breaks below 178, watch support at 177.5. That's going to be a key support, by the way. If that breaks, 176.5 is likely going to come in lower levels. If we see the buyers stepping in after the FOMC minutes, watch resistance around 179, then 179.5 around that area. Now, what do I think is more likely? It could pop a little bit, but there is a risk of Apple potentially dropping, looking at this current trend, to retest 178. And after the CPI numbers come out, who knows what's going to happen? If it turns bearish for the markets, we could see another drop. If not, the exact opposite could happen. So we'll just have to wait and see. Apple's a bit indecisive, but there is a higher probability of downside because it did break below this rising wedge. So just be very careful. It hasn't broken some key support yet to turn more bearish. So we have to wait for that first, but there is a higher probability of that eventually happening. All right. For Nvidia, same thing on Nvidia. Nvidia is starting to sink a little bit, but it's just barely holding this key level around 461 to 460. So we were talking about this thing testing 465, maybe rejecting. That's exactly what happened today, getting a little pop and drop at the market. And now we're watching this 461 to 460 zone. If that breaks, we have the potential to retest 457. That's going to be a critical support. Nvidia truly is not like super bearish or a lot more bearish until we break below 457. Once that breaks, then we could see Nvidia start sinking towards the lower 450s. But as of right now, that hasn't happened. It's just getting like a small pullback. It's still holding up quite decently. And you can turn really bearish until we break below this trend line right here. So this one down below, which I'm going to turn yellow. So this yellow trend line, watch that carefully. We will see if that holds or not. If that breaks, that's when you could turn more bearish on Nvidia. But for now, it's just kind of like shopping around, shuffling around the 460 to 461 zone. Not a whole lot is going on with it. We will see which way it moves after the FOMC minutes and such come out. All right. I think that's pretty much it for the video. I went over the main five. And then as a reminder, we're going to be watching these levels. Another thing worth mentioning is that on the 30 minutes time frame, Tesla's treating the 50 EMA as support. We'll see if this breaks or not. And in case you're new, I always have the extended hours on, so you can see even more data from these EMAs and etc. So I'm looking at this with the extended hours being on. So it's very important to be looking at this, at least in that manner. And we're going to be watching this all very, very carefully. Last but not least, guys, I just want to mention that the 10-year Treasury yield is still, once again, starting to push up a bit. If this does push higher to fill this gap, this can be more bearish for the markets. It has some more bullish momentum. And finally, the dollar index is starting to push up. It's approaching this 106.1 resistance. It's looking a bit more bullish, so just be very careful. Anyways, that's pretty much it for the video. We'll see what happens. Don't forget we have FOMC minutes and CPI for tomorrow. I'll see you all very, very soon. Thank you. This is your final warning in case you want to exit or not. And peace out.